Hello, I'm Dale Matthews, and it's Sunday, and I'm joined by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
Hey, Dale Matthews, what's going on?
Well, here at the top of our news, we have an exclusive inside report by Mike
Yeah.
Jones. Mike, show 'em your inside report, please.
Yes, this is my inside report. It's a colonoscopy that I got the other day, and that's it for today's inside
Inside Mike
report.
Jones. Now,
Yes,
who else
yes,
would possibly do this? You'll never see that on the CBS evening.
yes. You should hope not to see that on the CBS Evening News.
That's
Yes,
Mike's exclusive inside report or
inside
exclusively
report.
inside
Yes,
Mike. Yeah, right.
yes,
You know what he was
yes.
searching for?
Oh
Where did that
no,
go?
what
We
was I
find it
searching for?
we find it every day, but I can't say it on family television.
Oh, gotcha. Yes,
We don't
yes,
have to
exactly.
search for it either. It's delivered to us on a silver plate.
Yes. Well, but for this one, they make you clean all that out first before they take pictures
Boy, this is
inside.
a plan we need to
Yes.
do after this election, Mike. How can we see that that's done on a county-wide basis, buddy?
Right. Yes. First you purge, and then we do a colonoscopy to see what needs to be addressed. We, pluck out the polyps.
Yeah, oh, we
Because
know
there's
who they are.
yes, and we move forward with better colon health.
Boy, that's what
Yes.
this county needs. Better,
Yes, and we eat more fiber as a county. Yes,
yeah.
and that will help to purge the bad stuff from the system.
The first time I was doing a speech about the problems that need to be cleaned up here, I came out with a couple of props, and one of them was a broom. And I said, at first, it looked like we needed this, but that really wasn't enough. So I grabbed another one, and I said, and there was a push broom, and I said, and then it seemed like maybe this would do it. But you know what? That still wasn't enough. And then I grabbed this big cattle farm shovel. You know what kind of
Yes,
shovel? And I held this up.
yes,
I said, what we really need is this industrial strength shovel because sometimes
yes,
around here it gets so deep you need hip waders.
yes. That's right.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, so we've got quite a show for you tonight because it's Sunday and you know we've been looking at the charter. Oh, Marge, turn
Mhm.
it off. No, 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 no. This is going to be kind of interesting. It really
Yes,
does affect us on an everyday basis. It truly does. And one of
yes.
the things, go
Oh,
ahead,
and,
Mike.
and listen, speaking of fiber for local politics, the charter, it starts with the charter. Really?
Okay, yeah, fiber.
Yes.
I
No,
was, I don't know what the hell he's talking
I'm
about.
just saying if we held to the charter more tightly, just as if we held to the Constitution on a national level, we'd be in a lot better shape around
There
here.
you go. Now I understand. It's the fiber of
Yes.
our morality. Yes, I
Yes.
get you. Okay, all
Yes.
right. So,
Well, no, it was kind of, because the fiber is what holds everything together and sweeps the bad stuff out.
okay, I thought the
Yeah.
reason the commissioners were sticking together is because they weren't showering enough. Okay, all right. So,
Okay.
okay, so we were at the point here in the charter where we were talking about what page two. No, no, no. We've been trying to put it at the front of the show where we were talking about fees. What's the difference between a fee and a tax? How could the commissioners get away with charging fees when it says in the charter that they have to take it through the public? And on Thursday, the item that we didn't get to on Thursday, and we didn't get to it yesterday either, was the commissioners have pretty much decided. Are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. They may need to start raising fees twice a year instead of once a year because there's so many fees to raise.
Wow. They can't keep up with it. There's just too many.
Too many
I
fees to
agree.
raise.
I agree. There is just too many.
Oh, but they're supposed to do according to the church. Well, anyway, so what we did, we sat down with county legal counsel Mike
Wally Hicks.
Wally Hicks, and this is the one where he maintains an open door policy. Okay, that's not for everybody. Yes, it's for everybody, even those of you out there who are nudges, Mark.
And who need help with a divorce.
Yeah, no, that's not what. So what had happened the
No?
other
Oh,
day
okay.
is I was at the weekly business session. I said, so we went to Wally Hicks. What do we do about commissioners that lie and cheat? And she really did. She really did lie and cheat. She was breaking state law. Well, Mr. Matthews, you're not supposed to be talking with legal counsel. Hey, We elected this guy. What do you mean we're not supposed to be talking? Well, he can't give you advice about a divorce or something. What we need is a divorce from you. But that's political. So, and she's the one that would like to put up a glass wall so you can't go see Wally Hicks anymore. You have to type in a secret code or something. We just can't wait for a year plus to be over so we can say goodbye to these people and never see them again. Okay, because they've lied and cheated. We've proven it to you. You've seen the videos. Okay, so what we did is Mike and I were very interested in talking with Wally Hicks about the charter to get his unique perspective. And the first thing that we did, Mike, is we talked with Wally. See, when I slow down like this, it's a cue to Mike to get ready.
It's been in the queue
he's
from
ready,
the get-go.
He's jumping at it. He's really
My
ready.
hand is poised over the button.
Well, put it closer to the button, not way up here. Okay, so we talked with Wally about fees, and he talked to us a lot. Let's go.
Okay. Well, Section 29.5 is the charter amendment regarding fees. Voter approval shall be required before any use fee, license fee, or any other fee may be established by the county. In no way shall this act interfere with any existing fee or license programs, nor with any policy or procedures related thereto, nor shall it interfere with judicial mandate or state or national law. And then it defines a fee. Definitions. Fee: a charge fixed by law for the services of public officers or for the use of a privilege or of property under control or ownership of the county. License: a permit or warrant issued by the county or agents thereof empowering the grantee to do some act, including those made unlawful by ordinance, statute, or order, including that authorizing or requiring such license. Now, a starting point for this analysis is, and I'm going to go broader than the charter here for a few lines. What's the difference between a tax and a fee? Right? That sounds like a simple question, but I don't think it is.
This recently is an issue that had great impact in the Affordable Care Act.
You bet.
That exact decision.
Sure. And the courts of Oregon, not just the Supreme Court of the U.S., but in the national courts, but the Oregon courts have taken up this question of the difference between a tax and a fee on a few occasions. And from what I have encountered, they have not provided any bright line guidance. And that's probably because it's not possible to provide. I mean, the government raising money is in some senses in every way a tax, but in some senses in every way a fee. You know what I mean? Philosophically there, because the government really is not a for-profit enterprise. And so the government should never be raising more money by design than it needs in order to operate.
Well, that would be nice.
That said, well, how the government can use the money that it does raise, the revenue that it does raise, is a question that is very hard to describe, very hard to answer, I mean, even by very esteemed judges at the appellate court level. So anyway, this charter amendment does pertain to fees, and there are, I think there are other provisions, or there's at least another provision in here regarding taxes. The charter, for example, explicitly prohibits the imposition of an income tax, and that's section 29.7, which we can go to now.
Yeah, that's good. I've experienced that. I used to work in the city of San Francisco, and they have a tax there that even if you don't live there, if you do business there and you're licensed to do business, you then must pay an income tax to the city of San Francisco.
So that's not going to happen here.
Yeah,
I mean, the charter explicitly prohibits an income tax, section 29.7. Josephine County shall not establish an income tax. Both personal and business income taxes would be disallowed. And that's one of the most efficient lines in the entire charter. That's the entire section. So that is as clear as it gets on the question of income tax.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, though, because we, as you know, we've been discussing on the show here, that they seem to be getting around some of the provisions in the charter here by, going and finding some obscure case law that says that, well, you can't do that. So now people, instead of being paid $30,000 a year, get to be paid whatever. So what is the likelihood that at some point, if they decide they want to go with an income tax, that they're just not going to do just that.
Well, before I get to the income tax question, so there has been a case in regards to fees in Josephine County. That's the one that I want to pull before we really get into the particulars of that.
Okay.
It was about 10 years ago, decided by Judge Coon. And, you know, it says, under certain circumstances, the commissioners can establish fees and raise them as well. So complex, and that's as far as I'm going to talk about it right now.
Well, one of the things that we've seen them do is they say, well, we're not going to call this a fee. It's a charge, but it's temporary. Oh, well, and then they're discussing among themselves, well, what does temporary mean? Well, temporary means, up to and maybe beyond a year. What?
Yeah.
That's temporary?
I don't know. I mean, a case-by-case basis. It's a complex question is the takeaway for the moment.
Yeah, temporary is relative. Really, can be.
It all is. I mean, tax is relative to fee, is relative to charge. Anyway, in regards to the prohibition of an income tax, I think it would be very difficult to get around that language in the charter.
It's quite concise, isn't it? It's well written, right? Now, do you feel that the section about fees is, well, it's not as concise as that, but is it well written from your point of view?
Sadly, it is not optimal for saying what I think that people are trying to say, which is the case with many of the provisions in the charter. It is clear that the people of this county have, over the decades, tried, with good intent, to put limitations on governmental action to the charter. And that makes our charter very unique, one of a kind, actually, within the state.
I have a great deal of respect for the people who put this together, because it is they clearly had a mind to limit the invasiveness of government and the cost of government. But so what is it about that particular, I mean, it's clear by reading it what the intent is. And the intent is, you shall not raise a fee on me without a 2/3 approval of the voters, or something along those lines.
Super majority.
So what is how is it that isn't clear enough legally?
So yeah, again, that's before I'm going to need to do a separate.
Okay.
We can talk about that another time, because that's a really detailed question to answer at this point. There is, well, anyway.
In general, about charters in Oregon, one of the things that we know on a national basis is when something comes up in front of the Supreme Court, or occasionally in front of Congress, they say, well, what was the intention of the founding fathers? Now, this wasn't written 200 years ago, and some of these people are still alive.
Yes.
And for those who would argue, well, I think their intention was we should charge fees anytime we want to, la la. Okay, that's one interpretation. In the state of Oregon, as far as you know, are charters sometimes subject to a group of people saying, well, what was the intention of the writers?
Maybe, but I don't know. I haven't ever heard of an occasion like that, which isn't to say it hasn't happened. I don't know. I think that a judge is always going to look at the black and white of the written printed page before ever trying to discern intent. I mean, it's supposed to be captured there. And so as I've sort of indicated a minute or two ago, it is clear that the intent of the people of this county has been to use the charter, to include within the charter protections of their rights and limitations on the ability of government, on the actions of government. I mean, that's obvious from the language of the page. Mm-hmm. Whether they're achieving that or not.
Well, I know you want to study it more, but just one more thing about this. This is the kind of show that we have, okay? That one more thing is, I don't understand how anyone can read this and say, what the writers did not mean was that if you're going to impose a fee, that you have to have the people vote on it. How can they possibly come up with that conclusion?
No, I'm not saying anybody has come. We need to talk about that on another occasion.
Yes, we will. Okay, I had to try again. I had to try, Wally.
Try as many times. That's the answer.
Okay, yes, I understand. So what else have you noticed in general about is there any answer to what's the difference between a tax and a fee? What are they saying across the country?
Across the country, I don't know. I can say within Oregon, though, there is what I think to be a 5-part test that has come down from the appellate courts, maybe the tax court, if not the Court of Appeals of the state. But I think there's there's generally a 5-part test that is used by the legislature to decide whether something is a tax or a fee. And of course, there's a major implication at the legislative level too regarding taxes or fees. You do need to have a supermajority of legislators vote to increase taxes.
So supermajority means not just a majority of one person, 51% or whatever, but supermajority is you have to have 2/3.
Definitions of supermajority.
I think it's actually
places too. Yeah.
I think is it 2/3 or 3/5? It is
3/5 of a man.
36 is how many you need in the House. So that's 3/5. Right? Yeah, 3/5. A lawyer, not a mathematician. But yeah, so you need a supermajority, a 3/5 majority to pass a tax in the legislature. The implications of that are typically that means it has to be bipartisan.
Yeah.
So, because the numbers typically just work out that way. Even now, with so few Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Senate, I think you still need one in order to pass a tax. So the difference between tax and fee within Salem at the legislative level is an important distinction.
Whereas something like the recent SB 941 probably went with a simple majority.
Yes, that was a simple majority. Constitutional amendments require 2/3. So that's going to require 40 out of 60 in the House.
And this is something that Wally knows about because you were our state representative.
That's right. Yeah.
And
those
now
numbers I know.
We're lucky enough to have you come in and say goodbye to one person and say hello to you. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Now, granted, this is on another topic, but on the topic of the amendments / annotations to the charter, we had discussed at one point that those were going to be re-examined at some point. Is there a schedule? Is there a timetable under which that's going to take place?
Yeah, I've been doing it ever since I got here.
Huh?
I mean, and by that I think you're referring to the August 23, 2005 memo annotations to charter provisions.
Yes, and what we're hoping is that you will come up with some conclusions right after the 2016 elections. Afterwards, Wally, please, after the elections.
Wow.
Not before the elections.
I don't get why.
I don't get why.
Well, because then there will be new commissioners in there.
Yeah, well, listen.
You can't, I'm not asking him to comment about
Yes,
this.
he's becoming political.
No.
My angle on it
It's a political website.
I believe that there are some fantastic things in this charter, and to the fact that or to the extent that they've been hobbled, bothers me somewhat. And if we can re-examine that and determine which of these annotations on the amendments or whatever is legitimate and which ones aren't, that's certainly helpful.
By legitimate, you mean would pass muster in a court of law.
Indeed, yeah.
But not in the court of public opinion, in the court of law.
Recognize, yes.
Right.
Yeah, sure. I think the people who voted these amendments in, their intent was clear. But again, does the language achieve what the people are trying to do?
Isn't it hard to put an amendment to the charter? That
Yes.
takes a lot. Does that need a supermajority of the population?
No, a simple majority.
Okay,
Simple.
but it's not easy.
No, I wouldn't say it's easy at all. It requires an initiative. It requires an initiative with petitions.
Is there? Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the count was on the vote that passed these amendments? Because obviously in the early 80s when they were putting this charter together, or whenever these amendments were put in there, there was a vote on it.
We keep records on that. I don't have them with me, but we have files that we can pull and dust off and
That'd be interesting.
retain what the votes were.
We're leaving this part up to you, and to share information with everybody. This is why we asked you to talk with us. Things that they need to know. And there are a variety of things that relate to the charter that are pretty important to people.
Yes. Here, I'll pull out the number one thing. Here it is. The number one thing that I hope people will appreciate about the charter comes not from the charter itself, or even from the state constitution, but from the Oregon Revised Statutes. And, the Oregon Revised Statutes are what the legislature creates and the governor signs off on. They can also be created by a statewide vote, but that's typically not how it works. And this statute here was created by the legislature. It was created, I think, 1959. So this is Oregon Revised Statute 203, 720.
Now, Mike, do you think this use of this finger is respectful of the law?
Oh, for Christ.
It's not the long arm of the law.
He was using his middle finger to point it out. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm reading just a portion of the entire statute, the portion that matters the most. The county charter and legislative provisions relating to the amendment, revision, or repeal of the charter are deemed to be matters of county concern and shall prevail over any conflicting provisions of applicable statutes and other state statutes unless otherwise specifically provided by conflicting state statutes first effective after January 1, 1961.
Okay, just like the lyrics to the song, but could you explain that in everyday English?
Let me sort of shave a few words off there.
Thank you.
And see if it makes sense now. The county charter is deemed to be a matter of county concern and shall prevail over any conflicting state statutes.
Okay.
Wow. Well, that deals with some of these, the annotations, doesn't it?
Yes. Now, yes. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Oh,
So,
see, we
I
had him
see.
at yes. We should have cut it off right when he said yes.
It's a very analyzed question. It's not saying that if you have a state statute and a county charter provision versus a county ordinance, it's talking about the charter here versus county ordinances. And I think that is because within the state constitution, the home rule provisions regarding cities are different from the home rule provisions regarding counties. See? And so city ordinances arguably are different than county ordinances and have different significance in relation to state statutes. So we're talking just about charter provisions here. That's what that statute is talking about. So it's not saying, from what I can tell, that if you have a state statute and a county charter provision and the two are in direct conflict with each other, that the county charter provision will prevail.
It's not saying that? It sure seems like that's what it's saying.
I know, but it's not. But I think it is saying that if the conflict is such that they are, the best way I can describe it is just out of sync with each other. They are both governing the same issue, but there is a difference in the way they do so. Then, the county charter provisions shall prevail.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have to ask you to go back just a little bit. I do this occasionally. I don't see the difference between maybe it will and maybe it won't and what you just said. Can you say
to the statute itself?
Yeah.
Okay, so the county charter is deemed to be a matter of county concern and shall prevail over any conflicting provisions of certain statutes and other state statutes unless otherwise specifically provided by conflicting state statutes first effective after the 1961 date.
Yeah, conflicting is the key word there.
Yeah.
Conflicting, and two laws which are having to do with the same thing, and there's a tweak here, then you default to the county charter.
There you go.
Is basically what it's saying.
There you go. Direct
Okay.
conflict isn't going to work, but being out of sync with each other probably will.
So, okay, all right. Then, so in the case of, say, commissioner compensation, then we're talking about that they've obviously in the annotations or amendments have given precedence to some law, which and I looked at the law that they were citing there, and it's like a bus driver getting paid by this city. It has to get paid this amount. I don't see how is that applies to elected officials in some way.
Commissioner compensation.
Yeah, it was the and then I went to because it says amended in I want to say September 1994, and then I went to that in the annotations, and it cited a case of, I believe, Lane County versus the Lane County Transportation versus Lane County. And I'm assuming that's how, a bus driver or something is going to get paid. How does that apply to the commissioners.
Oh, that one I'd have to look into before.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. What they're saying at these meetings, Keith Heck recently was talking about this at the budget committee. This is the third year in a row he's brought it up. And he said, well, I'd like to be paid less, okay? And the argument so far has been, well, the state won't allow that. Really? The state won't allow that? I mean, it's in the charter. It was clear when people wrote this what they wanted the commissioners to be paid. I personally think that if they're not going to, that if you're not willing to take what it says in the charter, then don't run for the position.
Or as we've discussed, certainly a commissioner could take the income that's coming from that and then donate a certain amount of it back. There's nothing to stop him from doing that once he's.
Right. Keith Heck has indicated that, well, sorry, a person has indicated that the reason he's not willing to do that is he'd have to pay the taxes on the entire amount.
Yeah, so what?
I think if that's the case, then that's the job.
Yeah. Well,
now, you may not like it. I don't like the charter. Well, get over it. That's what the charter says.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, you've been going over some of these. Is there going to be something published at one point or some conclusions that have been arrived at for public consumption?
Yeah, to explain it to all of us.
You bet. Yeah, I'm aiming at that, but I dare not suggest a timeline. Just
But we're starting. This is a start.
Yeah.
We're doing it on our show every Sunday, and we're talking about the charter, and it's turning out to be, I think, surprisingly interesting.
I thought we were going to blow through this in a couple of sessions now, and we're having a hard time getting through the table of contents and things like that. If you want to discuss it, and we're hacking the,
We're not hacking anything.
No. What I'm saying is that we're not lawyers or anything. All we're doing is reading what is there and making a layman's interpretation, which is probably not always correct.
But we're the citizens. We're the authority.
Well, right, and that's who I think this is written for.
I think it was written by citizens and for citizens.
And then later complicated by people who didn't like what was said in it.
They obviously didn't.
This is a problem. I mean, the Constitution, if you read through it, boy, you have things that are very, very important that take up one line, and they're very, what I think is very specific, and yet open to interpretation in the eyes of some people.
And another one, just the use of the word shall instead of any other word. Shall is a real important word in
shall or may.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Yes. Shall is an important word. It is.
Anyway, well, okay.
It's a start, Wally. This is a start.
Yes.
We obviously want to give you enough time to look at this so that you can be sure the public's informed correctly.
Yes.
Well,
Yes,
I mean,
that's why I'm here.
and here's a good thing to deal with right now, and that is what shall be the topic of the next thing, because there are a couple of things that are going on here right now, and that is the Galeese miners and how the charter pertains to their rights and the position that elected officials here in local government should take as, to take a stand on that, or whether they should be required to do that, or whether the charter even says anything about that.
Right. Maybe it doesn't, but we're willing to go with what it says, but we need to know what it says first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay, some of the others, when we went through the table of contents, going through the table of contents sounds like a really boring thing, but there were so many interesting topics, and we kept saying, there's another one.
Yeah, it's a very interesting chart. I know that, like I was saying the other day, I know it's badcounty.com, but when it comes to the protection of the rights of the citizens, I think there's no better place in Oregon than Josephine County. You have more protections on your rights, or at least attempted protections on your rights.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Attempted
Anywhere
protections,
else.
yes.
Yeah, people are trying, sincerely trying to protect the rights of the citizens of this community by
Well,
using this charter.
You know what I
Very
think would
unique
be
way.
a fantastic thing is if at some point the analysis is through and something is published, and then we could have a referendum on the ballot just reaffirming the values that are given. I mean, it would be meaningless, but it would be about the same as when we take a poll saying that should we go and cut burnt trees out of the forest.
Well, an
instead of
informational
leaving them sit
question.
there.
Citizens can't put an I didn't know this. Citizens can't put an informational question on the ballot. You know, I haven't one in mind. Don't listen, Wally. And mine is it's only a suggestion, but we suggest a 5-year moratorium on trying to raise our property taxes. You know, because it's just a message from the citizens. We're tired of saying no to this all the time. That's
Yeah,
just
well, and that'll have a lot more impact, you know, here in a few days if it goes that way.
Whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, right. No, that's true.
Okay. So, what do you think, Mr. Expert? What do you think is the right thing for us to talk about next? What thing? We brought in the idea of fees, but do you have one that you think should take precedence over that, or are they all equal?
Oh my!
You got any favorites?
Oh boy, I wasn't going to put it that way.
Well,
But
you know, I do think you should. You can talk about the provision of the charter, the fees, I suppose.
Great, let's do that.
But what I think people need to understand, even before all of that, is how you get things into the charter. How does a charter get created anyway? Why do only 9 counties in Oregon have them out of the 36 counties that there are? And why are they so different from place to place? And how can someone get something into the charter if they want to?
And what does it mean? What does it mean? I mean, so we got a charter, big deal. It's a piece of paper.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Pretty good stuff. I have nothing from you. You're muted.
I was speechless there for a little while.
Yes, I did the same thing during the process because, you know, if I want to get up and mill around in here, I don't want anybody to hear what's going on. So, you know,
I believe that, as we were saying there, when we were going through the table of contents, snore. No, it wasn't. It was interesting because so many things in the table of contents. When was the last time you read a table of contents? You just go straight in. No, there were so many things in there that pertain to today. They're everyday issues. They're in the charter already. What are the rules?
Absolutely.
Right. So
yeah, and each time I listen to this, I've played this over a couple of times. You know, I get new stuff out of it. Yeah, just very, very interesting stuff. He was talking about, and I had interjected, which was a little bit off kilter there, about the compensation of the commissioners, and this is the annotation, and it is the law, or they're talking about the law that prevents the counties from setting their own compensation somehow for commissioners. And essentially, this is adopted by initiative May 1990 in Hudson versus Feeder, Josephine County Circuit Court. That compensation was an administrative matter and not a legislative matter. And as an administrative matter is not appropriate subject for amendment by initiative.
Now, it would have been nice if, when these people were putting this initiative together, Steve Rich, the former guy, if you had told everybody that it was not appropriate, because what are they doing this for if you're just, as an elected legal counsel, the previous guy that we had, that he went to court against the people?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, it says the reasoning is based on LeGrand versus Perb. And it gives, let's see here, a statute 1978 and reaffirmed in Lane County Transit versus Lane County. Well, that sounds like it deals with bus drivers or, you know, people that are working for the transit department of Lane County. How does that then apply to elected officials? And why is it that, you know, it is inappropriate somehow to have a charter amendment that dictates what the commissioners are going to be paid?
Well, I have a super important question about all this. Okay, so here's this guy. He's our elected county legal counsel, the guy before, the only one in the state, and it's super clear what it is that the people want. And these are supposedly public servants, right? Including Steve Rich. He was elected by us. And so once this initiative put in, and it has to be cleared through Steve Rich, he has to be sure that it goes onto the ballot in a missive that's written by legal counsel, and it goes on the ballot, and people vote for it. Okay, it's crystal clear what it is that the people want, and then once it's already voted in by all those people, then Steve Rich, our elected legal counsel, this wonderful, and the commissioners that were there, they're all public servants. So they go to court to stop the people. Really?
Yeah, it's a little confusing why, but it seems to me.
I'm not confused by that. I'm not confused. I understand what you mean, but it's not confusing to me. They are not public servants. This is what we're always talking about. Well, you're so hard on them. If they were public servants, it would be the way we're doing it now, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, and you know, this is one of the things that I kind of like about the charter. It's written in very, very simple language. It's not complex at all. And when you look at these reasonings for negating amendments to the charter, it's in legalese. And then you have to dig into the specifics of that case and determine whether or not it really did apply or what. You know, the second part of this, it says Josephine County Circuit Court case, blah, blah, blah. The court determined, among other things, that Oregon state statutes preempted Section 25. Well, we were just talking about in that clip there that if there's a conflict in two things trying to regulate the same thing, that the trump would be the charter, not the state statute. Okay. And then it says, and there was the clear duty on the part of the county finance director to pay commissioners as provided by state statutes. Again, see Lane County versus Lane County Transit.
So wait a minute. So the state, it's almost like an unfunded mandate, isn't it? The state is deciding what our county commissioners are going to be paid instead of us?
Well, and it isn't clear here because somebody went and found this case law and said, oh, here's the reason why we can. It isn't clear that this ever played out in court. It's clear that it was that they struck down the amendment by, looking at this case law and saying this applies. Now, was that adjudicated? I don't know.
Well, this was presented to you guys tonight by tape delay. After we stopped taping, for some reason, I don't know why, there was no reason behind it. I asked Wally Hicks about the history of what happened in that court case, and he confirmed what we've been saying all along. You want to tell him what we've been saying all along about this, Mike? Who was responsible? How did that work out in the court of law?
Well, I believe now, and I'm not sure about which case was, who did what when, but at least on one occasion, Steve Rich went in to court against the people and won because no one for the people showed up to represent. I mean, he's supposed to. I would think he would be the one defending the charter, but apparently
he was not, sir. He did not defend the charter.
Yes, and so I'm assuming that somehow the marching orders came from whoever were currently serving in the commissioner position and said, "Hey, listen, can you please check out this compensation thing because we'd like to make some more money or something."
And this was not turned back before it ended up in the charter. It is still in the charter. It was added to the charter after all that effort, and after it's in the charter, Steve Rich, and one can assume egged on by those commissioners, went to a court of law. Nobody from the other side in all of that effort apparently knew or showed up or whatever. And the judge said, according to Wally Hicks, that Steve Rich won this case by default. That's the words that Wally Hicks used, by default.
Okay. But was that particular case that you're talking about, was that about the compensation of the commissioners, or was it something else? Because they have there are a number of these amendments that have annotations on them that says, well, we can't do this because of this.
Thank you for setting me back on track. That one was about fees, as I understand it.
Okay.
That was about fees. Here's the thing. When you're sure what the people want, why the heck aren't you doing it? Because you don't want to. When Cheryl Walker is absolutely sure what the law says about talking about the levy and promoting the levy during a county commissioners meeting when the ballots are out, and she knows, and it happened to her last year, and the state said, yes, that's illegal. Now, why would she go ahead and do that again and then warn everybody else not to do what she did?
Yes. And, one of the biggest problems that I see in you've got a charter. It seems perfectly good. And then somebody of a legal mind goes through and strikes a bunch of stuff down that they don't like, and they go and find ways of doing that. And then they find a judge perhaps that will assist them in that process. What I would like is for a set of commissioners who aren't of the mind to buck the charter. Read the charter, look at it. Okay. We all understand the intent of this charter. You know what? And if you don't want the job, as Dale mentioned during that clip, if you don't want the job, then don't apply for it. But don't get in there and then try to overturn the charter. To me, that is, boy, what's the right way of putting it? It's.
You could pick a bunch of words for that, buddy.
Yes, you can, but it's I'm looking for something specific. It's if you come in and the charter sort of lays out the job. Here is your job, and here are the guidelines by which you will perform your job. And then you come in and you want to change the guidelines. That just doesn't seem right to me. And I really want people, because listen. It's very clear when you read the charter and the way it's laid out that these people, they were of a mind to make things better for the people here and not necessarily the government. And most of these annotations are negations of amendments that then take the advantage and turn it back to government.
Now, why would they do that? Look, Mike and I, especially me, get in a lot of trouble at county commissioners meetings for catching them on tape doing illegal things and playing it back for you. It doesn't need commentary. If Cheryl Walker runs again, nobody's going to need to do television ads with commentary. All we need to do is show her talking. Let her kill herself on this. She's going to hang herself with these statements that she makes. So we get in a lot of trouble for this. Why? You're throwing a monkey wrench into we're trying to get work done here. No, it's exactly the opposite. They're the ones that are throwing the monkey wrench into the will of the people. The will of the people. Look, I'm not trying to be highfalutin about this, but what I am saying is when it's dead clear what the citizens want, the people who are turning us around are the county commissioners who are lying and cheating and sending our elected legal counsel off to go argue their case so they can thwart the will of the people.
Right. Yes, exactly. And so, it just seems clear that you would want to run your prospective new commissioners through the filter of the charter to see how they come out on it. And,
they took a pledge. They solemnly pledged, we will follow the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution. They don't pledge to follow the charter, and I'm going to add that on. If I ever had the opportunity, I would say, I'm going to do this. Oh, the judge, you cannot do that. Hey, fire me then, okay? You just swore me in.
Yeah.
Now am I gone? Because I've said I'm going to follow the charter, and it doesn't matter if the charter was written by lunkheads or geniuses. I'm following the charter and the state constitution and the dang U.S. Constitution. It was not written by Satan worshipers. I reject that idea. It was. Oh, do I look serious?
Yes.
No, I'm not having any of that foolishness. Okay.
Well, and yes, that's a good point. It's a good point. I think it's simple enough. It is written for people. Let's stick with it. Let's hire commissioners that want to go by those rules. I mean,
and what is this job? This job isn't supposed to be something about puffed up, lofty individuals in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. Look at me, I'm a commissioner. No. It's really simple. And I've said in the past, I don't want to run for commissioner. I want to run to be public servant. Oh no, that doesn't sound right. No. If you're a public servant and you're not some huge, bureaucratic symbol that can say to, oh, you've got to sit down, Mr. Jones. Well, why? Oh, I don't have to give you a reason. It's because I'm a commissioner and I say so. That didn't work back a number of years ago in my family. That wasn't, they never gave me that explanation. If you're a public servant, it's always easy to see what to do. And if you're an honest person, there's a book on that. There's a book of rules about how to be an honest person. And so do you really think that the three examples, and then Mike's going to lead us out of the show. The three examples are when I caught Simon Hare lying in a meeting and I brought the proof to the next meeting and I'm starting to play it back and he cut the power. Do you think it was God that was leaning over into Simon's ear and whispering to him, Simon, it's okay to cut the power because you've got to protect your phony baloney job, and it's okay that that's the truth, but I'm telling you, go ahead and cut the power. When Keith Heck said that Mike and I had altered the tape, that we'd put words into his mouth, that we had, I'm on a roll, Mike, the Kaiser roll, that we had altered the tape and we made it look like he said something stupid. Do you think it was Jesus that was leaning? Hey, it's okay, Keith, it's a lie, but I'm telling you, I'm Jesus, and I'm saying, you think that was Jesus or somebody else that was whispering in his ear? And then when Cheryl Walker, I had to include her, when she gets up there and she breaks the law, the meetings law, and tells us we have to follow it, but she breaks it. Do you think it was the Holy Spirit that came to her? Cheryl, listen, it's the Holy Spirit. Or do you think it's the other guy that's giving her advice? They're following the wrong leader. Am I making it clear enough?
Yes, I get your meaning there, Dale. You alluded to how we want these people to get stuff done, and I say not necessarily, because this is why we have competing branches of government. They really are supposed to be competing and butting heads all the time, and I think the idea of that is to prevent government from getting too much stuff done. Now, the charter lays out certain guidelines that you're supposed to bump up against. It's like another branch of government that checks the commissioners at every turn so that they don't do stupid things. And I'm looking forward to more of these sessions and learning more about the charter. And there certainly is a lot of stuff to cover. We could probably keep this going for months.